She had it all planned out, the perfect dress, the man of her dreams, and the most secure future she could ever imagine, until a song at the altar revealed a secret buried 26 years ago. The moment Isabel turned around expecting a gift from her fiancé, she saw a face that would change everything, and heard a melody that her memory had never forgotten, though her mind had never understood why. What would you do if on your wedding day you discovered that your entire identity was built on a lie? Stay tuned to the end of this video to find out the truth behind the mysterious song, the man who emerged from her past, and the hardest decision Isabel will ever have to make. I'd love to hear where you're watching from today, and if you're enjoying this, let me know in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow's special episode is one you definitely won't want to miss. Isabel Munro woke up to the soft light of dawn, filtering through the lavender-patterned curtains of her childhood bedroom. The familiar scent of lavender, her mother's favorite fragrance, wrapped around her like a warm hug, soothing her nerves. Today was the day she had dreamed of for as long as she could remember. It was her wedding day. As she lay in bed, she took a moment to absorb the stillness around her. The only sound was the distant chirping of birds outside, heralding the start of a new day. A smile crept onto her face as she felt the weight of her beautiful wedding gown hanging in the closet, just waiting for her to slip into it. Everything was perfect. She could already envision the moments ahead, the soft music, the laughter of friends and family, the vows exchanged with Nathan, the love of her life. With a deep breath, Isabel swung her legs over the side of the bed and planted her feet on the wooden floor. She could hear the faint sound of her best friend Clara bustling around in the kitchen downstairs, undoubtedly preparing breakfast. Clara had been her rock through the entire wedding planning process, and Isabel was grateful to have her by her side today. As she made her way downstairs, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, mingling with the sweet scent of pastries. Clara stood at the counter, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, wearing an apron that Isabel couldn't help but laugh at. It was adorned with cartoonish wedding cakes and hearts, a stark contrast to Clara's usual polished appearance. "Good morning, bride Toby," Clara exclaimed, turning to face Isabel with a wide grin. "Are you ready for your big day?" "I think so," Isabel replied, her voice slightly shaky. "Can you believe it's finally here?" Clara placed a plate of croissants on the table and walked over to Isabel, pulling her into a quick embrace. "You're going to be amazing. Just remember to breathe. It's normal to feel nervous." Isabel nodded, though the fluttering in her stomach told her that normal was an understatement. "I know. I just want everything to go perfectly. I've imagined this day for so long. Trust me, it will be perfect. Nathan is going to be awestruck when he sees you," Clara said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. They sat down to eat, and Clara filled the air with stories of past weddings they had attended, each tale accompanied by laughter and memories. Isabel found herself relaxing slightly as Clara's enthusiasm was contagious. She cherished these moments with her best friend, knowing that no matter what happened today, they would always have each other. After breakfast, Isabel returned to her room to get ready. She stood in front of the mirror, taking in her reflection. Her long chestnut hair cascaded down her shoulders, and her blue eyes sparkled with a mixture of joy and trepidation. She carefully applied her makeup, each stroke of the brush feeling like a ritual grounding her in the present moment. As she slipped into her wedding gown, the fabric felt cool against her skin. It was everything she had envisioned. Delicate, lace-intricate beading and a flowing train that added an ethereal quality. She felt like a princess. The moment she fastened the last button, she turned to the mirror and sighed, a mix of excitement and nervousness swirling within her. "Okay, Isabel," she whispered to herself, "you've got this." Clara knocked on the door, poking her head inside. "Are you ready? The photographer is here." Isabel took a deep breath and nodded. "I'll be right there." As she descended the staircase, her heart raced. The guests were beginning to arrive, their laughter and chatter filling the air. She could see the decorations glimmering under the soft glow of fairy lights and the altar adorned with beautiful flowers. Everything looked enchanting. When she reached the entrance of the venue, she paused for a moment, taking it all in. But then, Nathan appeared, his handsome face lighting up with a smile that melted her heart. His dark hair was styled perfectly, and he wore a tailored suit that accentuated his strong build. He looked every bit the man she had fallen in love with. "You look breathtaking," he said, his voice low and sincere. "Thank you," she replied, feeling a blush creep onto her cheeks. "I can't believe we're finally doing this." "Neither can I. It feels surreal," he said, glancing around. "Are you ready?" Before she could respond, the music began to play, signaling the start of the ceremony. Isabel felt a surge of emotion as she linked her arm with her father's, who was beaming with pride. They walked down the aisle together, the guests rising to their feet and turning to look at her. Isabel's heart swelled. As they approached the altar, she focused on Nathan's face, which radiated love and happiness. But just as they were about to reach the front, Nathan turned to her with a mischievous glint in his eye. "Wait, I have a surprise for you," he said, gesturing for her to turn around. Isabel furrowed her brow in confusion, but complied, glancing back at the congregation. It was then that the soft strains of a familiar melody began to fill the air. It was a hauntingly beautiful song, one that seemed to tug at her heartstrings. She recognized it, but the memories were just out of reach, like wisps of smoke dissipating in the air. As the choir sang, her gaze fell upon a man standing among the singers, his eyes locked onto hers. There was something familiar about him, something that sent a shiver down her spine. The man was older, with graying hair and a weathered face, but the intensity of his gaze held a depth of emotion that made her pulse quicken. "Who is that?" Isabel whispered to Nathan, her voice trembling. "I'll explain later," Nathan replied, his expression shifting from playful to serious. "Just focus on the moment." But Isabel couldn't focus. The melody wrapped around her, and with it came flashes of fragmented memories, laughter, a gentle touch, and a voice that seemed to echo in her mind. Her heart raced and she felt a sense of disorientation wash over her. As the song came to an end, the man stepped forward, his face etched with emotion. For a moment time seemed to stand still. Isabel's breath caught in her throat as he spoke, his voice steady yet filled with a weighty significance. "Isabel, it's time for you to know the truth. I am Elijah Hart, your father." The world around her began to dissolve, the sounds of the wedding fading into a distant hum. Isabel felt as if she were trapped in a bubble, her mind racing to comprehend what she had just heard. Her heart pounded in her chest, and her breath quickened as the truth began to settle in. Nathan's expression shifted from concern to disbelief, and Isabel turned to him, her eyes wide with shock. How can this be? My father is dead. My mother said he died before I was born." Nathan's lips pressed into a thin line, and he looked down, the weight of his silence crushing. "Isabel, I wanted to tell you, but it wasn't my place. I thought it was best to let your mother explain." Isabel felt the ground beneath her shift, and she staggered back, her mind racing with confusion and betrayal. How could Nathan have known this and kept it from her? How could her mother have lied to her all these years? "Isabel, please," Nathan urged, reaching for her hand. "Let's talk about this." But she pulled away, her heart racing with a mix of emotions, anger, betrayal, fear. She needed to process this to understand the whirlwind of thoughts and feelings that threatened to consume her. Without another word, she turned and fled from the altar, her mind spinning, her heart aching, and the weight of her world crashing down around her. Isabel stood at the edge of the cliff, the salty sea breeze whipping through her hair as waves crashed violently against the rocks below. The raw power of nature mirrored the turmoil churning inside her. Questions raced through her mind, each one more troubling than the last. The day that was supposed to be the happiest of her life had unraveled into a tapestry of betrayal, confusion, and heartache. "Isabel." A familiar voice broke through her thoughts. She turned to see Elijah approaching, his expression a mix of concern and determination. The man who had just claimed the title of her father stood a few feet away, weathered by years of searching and the weight of secrets long kept. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice trembling, a mix of anger and sorrow. The sight of him stirred memories she couldn't quite grasp, but she was unsure whether she wanted to explore them. "I needed to talk to you," he replied, taking a cautious step closer. "I know this is overwhelming. I can only imagine how you feel." "Overwhelming," Isabel scoffed, her heart racing. "You show up at my wedding like some ghost from the past, and you call this overwhelming. My entire life has been a lie, Elijah. Everything I thought I knew, my family, my identity, it's all gone, just like that. She snapped her fingers, frustration boiling over. Elijah's shoulders slumped slightly, the weight of her words evident in his eyes. I understand. I really do. But you have to believe me when I say that I never wanted to hurt you. I've spent years trying to find you, trying to protect you. Your mother, she thought she was keeping you safe. Safe from what? From you, Isabel retorted, the bitterness dripping from her words. Or from the truth, because I think I would have preferred to know the truth rather than live in a fairy tale built on lies. It's complicated, he said, his voice low and earnest. I can explain everything, but you have to let me in. You deserve to know the full story, not just the fragments. Isabel's breath hitched. Part of her wanted to turn away, to run from the chaotic swirl of emotions, but another part craved understanding. Why should I trust you? You're just as much a stranger to me as anyone else. You've been absent my entire life. I know, Elijah said, his eyes locking onto hers, searching for a flicker of understanding. But I'm here now. I've spent the last 20 years trying to piece together what happened, trying to understand why your mother took you away. It wasn't just a simple decision. It was a desperate act of love. Love, Isabel echoed, bitterness lacing her tone. Is that what you call it? You left me without a father and my mother lied to me. How is that love? Elijah took a deep breath, the weight of her words pressing down on him. It's love in the form of protection. Your mother believed that I was dangerous, that the life I led would put you at risk. She made a choice to shield you from that, and it was a choice that cost us both dearly. Do you even hear yourself? Isabel snapped, her heart racing with fury. You're justifying her lies because she thought you were dangerous. If she loved me, why didn't she trust me with the truth? It doesn't make sense. Elijah's expression softened the anguish of a father who had lost so much evident in his eyes. Because she was scared, Isabel. Scared of what the truth would mean for both of us. I was involved in things I shouldn't have been, and she thought that by keeping you away from me, she was protecting you from a life filled with uncertainty and danger. Isabel turned away, feeling the tears welling up in her eyes. She squeezed her eyes shut, trying to block out the emotions that threatened to consume her. I don't know if I can do this, she whispered, her voice barely audible over the crashing waves. I don't know if I can face all this. Then let me help you, Elijah said gently, taking a step closer but maintaining a respectful distance. You don't have to do it alone. I want to help you understand everything. I want to help you find the truth about your mother, about your real identity. You deserve that. She turned to face him again, her heart pounding as the weight of his words pressed down on her. And what if I don't want to know? What if I want to go back to my old life, to the life that was safe and predictable? Elijah shook his head, a sad smile crossing his lips. You can't go back, Isabel. The truth is already out. You've seen the cracks in your reality, and you can't ignore them. The only way forward is through understanding. You have to decide who you want to be, who you really are. Isabel's mind raced, contemplating the gravity of his statement. And what if I don't like what I find? Then you'll have the power to change it, Elijah replied, his voice steady and reassuring. You're not defined by your past, but by how you choose to move forward. I promise I'll be there, every step of the way. Tears streamed down her cheeks as a wave of conflicting emotions washed over her. She felt lost, yet there was a flicker of hope in Elijah's words. Why should I believe you? Because I'm willing to give you the truth, no matter how painful it may be, he said softly. You have a right to know who you are, and more importantly, you deserve to know that you were loved deeply, even if it was from a distance. Isabel stood in silence, the horizon stretching before her, a vast unknown filled with possibilities and uncertainties. The ocean roared below, as if urging her to take the plunge into the depths of her own past. Okay, she finally whispered, her voice steadying as she made her choice. I'll hear you out, but it's going to take time for me to process all of this. Elijah nodded, relief washing over his features. Thank you, I promise you won't regret it. Let's start with your mother. She has her side of the story, and I think it's important for you to hear it. Yeah, I guess I owe her that, Isabel replied, her heart heavy yet hopeful. But I still don't know if I can forgive her for lying. Forgiveness is a journey, not a destination, Elijah said, a hint of understanding in his eyes. Take it one step at a time. As they turned to leave the cliff's edge, Isabel felt as though she were stepping into a new chapter of her life, one that was filled with uncertainties, but also with the promise of understanding. The past may have shaped her, but the choices she would make from this point forward would define her future. Let's go find the truth, she said, determination lighting her eyes as they walked side by side, ready to confront the tangled web of secrets that had brought them together at last. Isabel sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the scattered remnants of her wedding day. The dress still hanging in the corner seemed to mock her with its pristine beauty. She had once envisioned herself walking down the aisle in it, filled with joy and certainty. Now it felt like a shroud, a reminder of everything that had unraveled in mere hours. The echoes of the church, the haunting melody that had sparked memories she never knew existed, played on repeat in her mind, a relentless reminder of the chaos that had engulfed her life. She took a deep breath, trying to ground herself, but the weight of the revelations loomed heavily in the air. How was it possible that her entire life had been built on a foundation of lies? The faces of her loved ones swirled in her thoughts. Nathan, who had stood there, eyes filled with an emotion she couldn't quite decipher. Her mother, Vivian, who had always been her unwavering pillar, now a figure cloaked in deception, and Elijah, the stranger who claimed to be her father. The weight of betrayal and confusion pressed down on her chest, making it hard to breathe. She rose and walked to the window, peering out at the street below. The sun was setting, casting a golden hue over everything, but it felt like a false light, illuminating a world that had suddenly become foreign. Isabel realized she didn't even know who she was anymore. A flicker of anger ignited within her, burning away some of the fog. She reached for her phone, her fingers trembling as she scrolled through her contacts, pausing at Nathan's name. She hesitated, her heart pounding. What was there to say, "Hey, I just found out you've been lying to me my entire life"? The thought made her stomach churn. Instead, she tossed the phone aside, deciding that confronting him could wait. Right now, she needed answers. Isabel dressed. In a simple pair of jeans and a soft sweater, feeling more like herself in the comfort of her casual attire. She needed to clear her head to escape the confines of her room, so she grabbed her keys and stepped outside. The cool evening air hit her, invigorating yet suffocating, as she made her way to the car. Driving aimlessly through the streets, Isabel found herself at the beach, the familiar sound of the waves crashing against the shore calling to her like a long-lost friend. She parked and stepped out, the salty breeze tangling her hair as she walked toward the water, her feet sinking into the cool sand. This had always been her sanctuary, a place where she could think, breathe, and escape the pressures of life. But even here, the peace felt elusive. As she stood at the water's edge, watching the horizon blur into the dusk, the weight of her thoughts pressed in on her. She needed to confront Elijah to hear his side of the story, but a part of her hesitated. Could she trust him? Would he be another layer of deceit, or was he genuinely seeking a connection, Isabel? A voice broke through the silence, and she turned to see Elijah approaching, his silhouette outlined against the fading light. Her heart raced, a mix of fear and curiosity washing over her. "What are you doing here?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "I saw your car," he replied, stopping a few feet away from her. His expression was somber eyes searching hers for understanding. "What do you want, Elijah?" she pressed, crossing her arms, attempting to shield herself from the emotional storm brewing within her. "I want to talk," he said, his tone earnest. "I know this is all overwhelming, but I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to explain." Isabel looked out at the waves, the rhythmic crash grounding her thoughts. She had spent her entire life imagining a father she would never know, and now he stood before her, flesh and blood, yet still a stranger. "Explain. What? Why my mother lied to me? Why you didn't come for me sooner?" Elijah sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. "It's complicated. Your mother was trying to protect you. I made mistakes. I should have done more to find you, but I was afraid of what it would mean for both of you." "Protect me from what? From you?" Isabel's voice trembled with anger. "Or from the truth? From the dangers that surrounded us," he replied, his voice low and heavy. "There were people involved in things that could have put you at risk. Your mother thought it was best to disappear to give you a chance at a normal life. Normal? Isabel scoffed, the bitterness rising in her throat. Was it normal to grow up without a father? To have a mother who lied to me? What kind of life is that? Elijah stepped closer, his eyes pleading. I understand your anger, Isabel. I really do. But I promise you, I never stopped looking for you. I was told you were dead, just like your mother. I spent years trying to find out what happened, and when I finally discovered the truth, Nathan helped me reach you. Why didn't he tell me? She whispered, her voice cracking under the weight of her emotions. Why keep it a secret? Because he thought it would protect you. Elijah explained, his eyes filled with regret. He believed that if you learned the truth too soon, it would shatter everything you thought you knew. And maybe he was right. Isabel shook her head, the anger still bubbling beneath the surface. Shatter my whole life has been a lie. How can you say that's protection? Elijah took a step back, his expression pained. I'm not asking you to forgive me or even to trust me. I just want you to know that I care. I care about you and the life you deserve. Isabel looked away, her heart racing as the waves crashed violently against the shore. You can't just waltz back into my life and expect me to embrace you. I need time. I need to think. Take all the time you need, Elijah replied softly, his voice barely above a whisper. But know that I'm here whenever you're ready to talk. I want to help you understand everything. As he turned to leave, Isabel felt a pang of something she couldn't quite define. Was it empathy, or the faintest flicker of hope? She stood there, watching him walk away, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. The sun dipped below the horizon, and darkness enveloped her, leaving her alone with her thoughts, her fears, and the fragments of a life that no longer felt like her own. Isabel knew one thing for certain: the journey ahead would not be easy. But whatever lay before her, she was determined to uncover the truth, to piece together the fragments of her identity, and perhaps in the process discover who she truly was. Isabel stood still for a moment, her heart racing in her chest as she faced her mother, Vivian. The air between them crackled with tension, thick with unspoken words and buried emotions. Vivian's hands trembled slightly as she fidgeted with the hem of her blouse, her eyes darting around the room as if searching for the right words. Mom, I need you to tell me the truth. Isabel urged, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. Everything. No more half-truths or evasions. I deserve to know. Vivian took a deep breath, her gaze finally settling on Isabel's face, a mixture of fear and love reflected in her eyes. You have to understand, Isabel. I did all of this to protect you. I thought I was doing the right thing. Isabel felt a knot tighten in her stomach as the weight of her mother's words sank in. Protect me from what? From knowing who I really am from my own father. She took a step closer, her voice rising with emotion. You told me he was dead. You made me believe I was orphaned, that I was alone in this world. It wasn't like that, Vivian exclaimed, her voice cracking under the pressure of her daughter's accusations. Elijah, he was involved in things I couldn't explain. Dangerous things. I thought if I kept you away from him, you'd be safe. Safe, Isabel scoffed, anger bubbling up inside her. Do you really think living a lie is safety? I had to learn everything about myself from a stranger. I had to find out that my whole life was built on a foundation of secrets. Vivian's face paled, and she reached out her hand, brushing against Isabel's arm. Isabel, please, just listen to me. I loved you like my own. You are my daughter in every way that matters. Isabel recoiled at the touch, feeling the sting of betrayal. But I'm not your daughter in blood. I'm not who you said I was. Her voice trembled, and tears threatened to spill. How could you do this to me? Because I was scared. Vivian's eyes glistened with unshed tears. When your biological mother died, I couldn't bear the thought of losing you too. You were all I had left. I thought if I kept you away from Elijah, I could keep you safe from the past that haunted us both. Isabel shook her head, her mind racing. But you didn't keep me safe. You just put me in a cage, locked me away from my own identity. She stepped back, trying to regain her composure, but the hurt was overwhelming. I need time to think. I can't do this right now. Vivian's face fell and Isabel turned away, her heart pounding in her ears. She stumbled into her childhood bedroom, the familiar sense of lavender and dust wrapping around her like a shroud. It felt like a world away from the chaos of the moment. The sun was setting outside, casting long shadows across the room, and it reminded her of the innocence she had lost. She sat on the edge of the bed, her mind racing with thoughts and questions. Memories of her childhood flooded in. Happy moments spent with her mother playing in the yard, laughing over silly things. She had always felt loved, but now that love felt tainted by deception. Isabel picked up a framed photo from her bedside table. It was a picture of her and Vivian taken on her 5th birthday. They were both smiling, the kind of smiles that reached their eyes. "You were my whole world," she whispered to the photo, feeling the tears spill over. She felt shattered, like glass fragments scattered across the floor, each piece glimmering, with a memory of a time when everything made sense. As she wiped her tears, there was a soft knock on the door. Isabel. It was Clara, her best friend, and the concern in her voice was palpable. "Can I come in?" Isabel took a shaky breath and nodded, wiping her eyes quickly. Clara opened the door and stepped inside, her expression softening as she took in the scene. "Hey," she said gently, moving to sit beside her. "I heard the shouting. Are you okay?" Isabel let out a bitter laugh, shaking her head. "How can I be okay? Everything I thought I knew about my life is a lie." Clara placed a comforting hand on her back. "I can't even imagine what you're feeling right now, but you're not alone. I'm here for you." "Am I really not alone?" Isabel asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I feel so lost, Clara. I don't even know who I am anymore. My whole life has been based on lies." Clara wrapped her arms around Isabel, pulling her close. "You're still you, Isabel, the same amazing person I've always known. Just because you found out something shocking doesn't change the essence of who you are." Isabel leaned into her friend's embrace, seeking comfort in the warmth of her presence. "But what if I'm nothing like what I thought? What if everything I believed about myself is just a facade?" "You're not just a product of your past," Clara replied softly. "You have the power to choose who you want to be. This isn't the end of your story, it's just a new chapter. You can write it however you want." Taking a deep breath, Isabel pulled back slightly to look into Clara's eyes. "But how do I move forward? How do I embrace this new truth when it feels like it's tearing me apart?" "Start by being honest with yourself," Clara advised, her tone earnest. "You need to process everything. It's okay to feel hurt and angry. But don't forget that you still have people who love you, who support you. You don't have to face this alone." Isabel nodded slowly, the weight of Clara's words settling in. "I want to believe that, I really do." The thought of facing Elijah and Nathan again filled her with dread, but she also felt a flicker of determination igniting within her. "I need to confront them, both of them. I need to hear their sides to understand why things happened the way they did." Clara smiled encouragingly. "That's the spirit. Just take it one step at a time. You're stronger than you realize." As Clara's words echoed in her mind, Isabel felt a surge of resolve. She might not have all the answers yet, but she was determined to uncover the truth, no matter how painful it might be. It was time to reclaim her narrative, to take control of her own identity. "Thank you, Clara," Isabel said, her voice steadier now. "I don't know what I'd do without you." Clara grinned. "You'll never have to find out. I'm not going anywhere." The two friends sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the world pressing down on them, but in that silence, Isabel felt a glimmer of hope. She could face whatever came next. She could discover who she truly was and find her place in a world that felt so uncertain. With a deep breath, she resolved to begin her journey toward the truth, ready to embrace whatever revelations awaited her. Isabel stood by the window of her childhood bedroom, staring blankly at the lavender-scented garden below. The morning sun filtered through the lace curtains, casting delicate patterns on the wooden floor. Today was supposed to be the happiest day of her life, a day she had dreamed of since she was a little girl. Yet a hollow ache nestled in the pit of her stomach, a feeling she couldn't shake off. She recalled the letter from Clara, her best friend, filled with affectionate words and excitement for the day ahead. But instead of joy, Isabel felt a gnawing sense of dread, creeping in a whisper of something amiss. "Isabel, are you ready?" her Mother Vivian called from downstairs, her voice bright but tinged with an undercurrent of anxiety. "Just a minute, Mom," Isabel replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She took a deep breath, trying to push the unease aside. The dress hung behind her, a flowing white fabric that sparkled with delicate beadwork, its beauty a stark contrast to her fraying nerves. As she descended the staircase, the familiar sights and sounds of her home enveloped her. Vivian was bustling, about smoothing out imaginary wrinkles on the tablecloth, a picture of poised elegance. Isabel admired her mother's determination, the way she had always been the one to keep everything together, even when life threw curveballs. But today, as Isabel caught a glimpse of her mother's tight smile, she realized that even the strongest foundations could be shaken. The drive to the church felt surreal. Isabel sat in the back seat of the car, her mind racing. What if I trip on my dress? What if Nathan changes his mind? What if... The thought spiraled and she clenched her hands, on her lap, willing herself to breathe. "Isabel, are you all right?" Clara turned around from the front seat, her brow furrowed with concern. "You look a little pale." "I'm fine, just a bit nervous." Isabel lied, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. "Hey, it's normal. You're about to get married. Just remember you love him." Clara's voice was soothing, and Isabel appreciated her friend's optimism, even as doubt lingered in the corners of her mind. As they approached the church, the grandeur of the building loomed before her, its white facade glimmering in the sunlight. Guests were milling around, laughter and chatter filling the air, but as Isabel stepped out of the car, the noise faded into a distant hum. She felt as if she were walking through a dream, everything moving in slow motion. With each step toward the altar, Isabel's heart raced. Nathan stood there looking dapper in his tailored suit, his warm smile igniting a flicker of hope within her. She had envisioned this moment countless times, and yet as she reached him, the weight of the world seemed to settle on her shoulders. "Are you ready?" Nathan asked, his voice low and reassuring. "More than ever," she replied, forcing a smile. But inside uncertainty twisted like a slow-burning flame. The ceremony began, and Isabel's focus narrowed to Nathan's face, the way his eyes sparkled with love. As they exchanged vows, the world around them blurred into insignificance. She felt anchored to him, a sense of belonging that made her heart swell. But just as they reached the moment of the ring exchange, Nathan's voice wavered and he smiled mysteriously. "Isabel, wait. Turn around for a second. I have a special surprise for you," he said, his eyes glinting with mischief. Confusion washed over her, but she complied, turning to face the congregation. The atmosphere shifted, and in that instant, the haunting melody of a familiar song filled the air. A chill ran down her spine as the voices of the hidden choir wove around her, and something deep in her stirred. The song was beautiful, but it was more than that. It was a thread that pulled at her very soul, igniting fragments of memories she couldn't quite grasp. And then she saw him. Among the singers, a man with salt and pepper hair and piercing eyes locked onto hers. His presence sent shockwaves through her, as if a dam had burst within her mind. Recognition struck her like lightning, and she felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Who is he?" Isabel murmured, her heart racing as she turned back to Nathan, panic rising in her chest. Nathan's expression faltered, and for a brief moment Isabel saw something in his eyes that terrified her. "Isabel, Before he could finish, her world spun out of control. The man stepped forward, the music fading into silence. "Isabel," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "I'm Elijah Hart. I'm your father." The words sliced through her like a knife, leaving her breathless. No, that's not possible. She felt the walls closing in her vision, blurring, as shock settled over her like a heavy fog. "Your mother. She lied to you. I've been looking for you," Elijah continued, his eyes pleading. "But she said you were dead." Isabel's voice trembled, disbelief swirling within her. "I know. I tried to protect you, but—" "Protect me," Isabel interrupted, anger and confusion battling within her. "You've ruined everything. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't Nathan tell me?" Nathan reached for her hand, but she recoiled, her heart pounding. "I can't believe you knew. You let me walk into this lie. Isabel, please." Nathan started, but she turned away, her breath hitching as she struggled to process the whirlwind of emotions crashing over her. Elijah stepped closer, his eyes searching hers. "I didn't want to come here like this. I wanted to meet you in a better way. I just—" "Stop!" Isabel shouted, the weight of betrayal crashing down on her. "You don't get to come back into my life like this. You're a stranger." The murmurs of the guests faded into the background, her world narrowing to the three of them. Isabel felt the ground beneath her shift once more, the very foundation of her life crumbling. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Everything she believed was unraveling before her eyes, and the truth was a fractured mirror reflecting a reality she had never known. As the echoes of the choir faded, Isabel felt the walls of the church closing in her heart, racing with a mixture of fear and anger. She needed to escape, to think, to breathe. Without another word, she turned and fled through the doors, leaving the chaos behind. Outside, the cool air hit her like a wave, and she staggered toward the garden, her mind a maelstrom of thoughts and feelings. How could her mother have lied? How? Could Nathan, the man she was about to marry, keep such a monumental secret? The world felt alien now, as if she had stepped into a parallel reality where nothing made sense. "Isabel!" She heard Nathan's voice calling from behind her, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. The garden, once a place of childhood joy, now felt like a prison of memories she could no longer trust. "Isabel, wait!" Nathan's footsteps grew louder, but she pressed on, the weight of betrayal heavy on her chest. She reached the edge of the garden, the vibrant flowers blurring into a whirl of colors as tears filled her eyes. "Why?" she whispered into the wind, the question hanging in the air unanswered. "Isabel, please, let me explain." Nathan's voice was desperate now, but she felt a part of her harden. There were no words he could say that would mend the fracture that had opened up beneath her. She turned to face him, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I can't do this. I can't marry you. I don't even know who you are anymore." "Isabel, I love you." Nathan pleaded, his face a mask of anguish. But love felt hollow now, lost among the ruins of secrets and lies. "You don't love me. You loved the idea of me, the perfect bride, but I'm not that person anymore." With that, she turned away, leaving him standing in the garden, a silhouette against the backdrop of a life she could no longer recognize. She walked away, the echoes of the past fading into the distance, but the uncertainty of the future loomed large. Isabel sat in her car, the engine idling, her heart racing like a wild stallion. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the sea, but all she could focus on was the turmoil inside her. She was parked at the edge of a cliff, a place that had always been her sanctuary, a refuge where she could escape life's pressures, a spot where the world fell away, and all that remained was the sound of the waves crashing against the rocks below. But today, even the rhythmic lull of the ocean felt like a distant echo, barely reaching her consciousness. She took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm within. The memories of the wedding ceremony flooded her mind, the beautiful dress, the smiling guests, and Nathan's encouraging gaze. But then came the jarring intrusion of Elijah's revelation, as stark and shocking as a thunderclap. "I'm your father," he had said, and those words reverberated through her thoughts like a haunting melody. How could everything she believed be upended in a matter of moments? Isabel glanced at herself in the rearview mirror, searching for answers in her own reflection. Her usually bright hazel eyes were clouded with confusion. She touched her hair absently, a nervous habit she had since childhood. "What am I supposed to do?" she whispered to herself, the question hanging heavy in the air. Suddenly, her phone buzzed on the passenger seat, jolting her from her reverie. It was a message from Clara, her best friend. "Hey, just checking in. How's everything? I'm here if you need to talk." The warmth of Clara's words wrapped around her like a comforting blanket, but the comfort was fleeting. She typed a quick response, her fingers hovering over the screen. "Can we meet? I need to talk." Pressing send, she felt a small wave of relief wash over her. Clara would help her sort through the chaos, or at least distract her from it for a while. With a sigh, Isabel turned off the engine and stepped out of the car. The salty breeze whipped through her hair, mixing with the lingering scent of lavender from earlier in the day. She walked toward the edge of the cliff, the waves crashing beneath her, and closed her eyes, letting the sea air fill her lungs. "What do I do?" she murmured, staring out at the horizon. The ocean seemed endless, vast, and unknowable, much like the revelations of the day. She could feel the weight of Elijah's existence pressing down on her, threatening to drown her in a sea of Uncertainty. Just then she heard footsteps crunching on the gravel behind her. Turning around, she saw Elijah approaching, his expression a mix of concern and determination. "Isabel," he called softly, his voice cutting through the roar of the waves. "What are you doing here?" she replied, her tone sharper than she intended. She couldn't help but feel defensive. After everything, how could he just show up here invading her space when she was trying to process an earthquake of emotions? "I wanted to give you some space," he said, stopping a respectful distance away. "But I couldn't leave things like this. I know you're confused, and I understand if you're angry with me." "Angry, you think?" She could feel the heat rising in her cheeks. "You just dropped a bombshell on me, Elijah. My whole life has been a lie, and you expect me to just accept it, to forgive you." He took a step closer, his eyes pleading. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want you to understand. I didn't come here to hurt you. I want to help you find the truth." "The truth," Isabel echoed, her voice trembling. "What truth? That my mother lied to me, that I'm not who I thought I was. How am I supposed to wrap my mind around that?" "I know it's a lot," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "But you deserve to know. You deserve to understand. Where you came from. I spent years searching for you, trying to protect you from the shadows of our past." Isabel clenched her fists, the anger bubbling inside her. "Protect me by keeping me in the dark, by letting me believe you were dead. That's not protection. That's deceit." Elijah's face fell, the weight of her words crashing over him. "I thought I was doing the right thing. Your mother believed I was dangerous. She was scared, and I didn't want to push her or you away. I thought it would be easier if you never knew." "Easier for whom?" she shot back, taking a step closer, her heart pounding. "You or my mother? Because it certainly wasn't easier." "For me?" He exhaled, his shoulders sagging. "You're right, it wasn't. But Isabel, I need you to understand that I've never stopped caring about you. I would have done anything to keep you safe, even if it meant staying away." Isabel turned, away, her gaze fixed on the horizon once more. "And what about now? What do you want from me? You want to be a part of my life again after all this time?" "I want to help you," he said, his voice softer now. "I know it won't be easy, but if you let me, I can help you piece together the fragments of your past. We can figure this out together." Isabel felt the tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. "You think it's that simple? That we can just walk back into each other's lives after all this time, after all the hurt?" "No, I don't think it's simple at all," he replied, his eyes earnest and sincere. "But I believe it's worth it. You deserve to know your story, Isabel. You deserve to reclaim your identity on your own terms." She turned to face him, her heart racing. "And what if I don't want to know? What if I'm scared of what I'll find?" "Then I'll be right here with you," he said, stepping closer until there was only a few feet between them. "You don't have to face this alone. You have a choice. I can be here to support you, or you can push me away, but the choice is yours." Isabel studied him, searching for any hint of insincerity, but found none. The man standing before her was not the stranger who had walked away from her life. He was someone who had cared deeply, even if his choices had been misguided. The weight of his words settled in her chest, a mix of anxiety and hope. Taking a deep breath, she finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know if I'm ready, Elijah. I don't even know who I am anymore." "That's okay," he said gently. "You don't have to have all the answers right now. Just know that whenever you're ready, I'll be here. No pressure. Just truth when you're ready to face it." In that moment, Isabel felt a flicker of something she hadn't in a while. Hope. It was fragile, like a delicate flower pushing through the cracks of concrete, but it was there. And as she looked out at the vast sea, she realized that perhaps the journey ahead wouldn't be one she had to take alone after all. Isabel stood on the edge of the cliff, the salty breeze tousling her hair and filling her lungs with a mixture of exhilaration and dread. The vast expanse of the ocean stretched out before her, waves crashing against the rocks below, a relentless rhythm that seemed to echo the turmoil inside her. As she gazed at the horizon, she felt like she was teetering on the precipice of two worlds, one familiar and comforting, the other terrifying and unknown. Isabel. The voice cut through the wind, gentle yet firm. It was Elijah standing a few feet behind her, his presence both grounding and disconcerting. She turned slightly, her heart racing. Was it possible to feel so many emotions at once? Anger, confusion, betrayal, but also a flicker of hope. "Why are you here?" she managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. "You shouldn't have followed me." "I had to," he replied, taking a step closer. "You need to know the truth even if it hurts. I understand you're scared, but I promise I'm not your enemy." Isabel scoffed, crossing her arms, as if to shield herself from the revelations that had shattered her world just hours earlier. "Not my enemy. You're the reason my entire life has been a lie. You're the reason my mother lied to me." Elijah's face, lined with years of regret and determination, softened. "I never wanted to be a part of this, Isabel. I was trying to protect you just like your mother was. But the truth has a way of surfacing no matter how deeply it's buried." Isabel turned back to the ocean, the waves crashing like the tumult of her thoughts. She felt the sting of tears brimming in her eyes, but fought them back. "You think this is protection? You think lying to me about who I am is protecting me?" "No," Elijah said, his voice steady. "But your mother thought she was protecting you from a truth that could destroy everything you knew, and in a way she succeeded. Until now." "Until now," Isabel repeated bitterly, as if tasting the words. "And what am I supposed to do? With that, just accept that my life has been built on a foundation of lies, that my whole identity has been fabricated." Elijah took a deep breath, the weight of his words heavy in the air between them. "You have to decide who you want to be, Isabel. You can't let other people define you, not even your mother or me. The truth is painful, but it's yours to shape into something new." Isabel's mind raced as she processed his words. The idea of shaping her own truth felt daunting, like trying to hold water in her hands. "And what if I don't want to shape anything? What if I just want my old life back?" "You can't go back," Elijah replied softly. "You've already crossed that line. But you can move forward. You can take the pieces of your past and build something stronger." A moment of silence enveloped them, the crashing waves a reminder of the relentless passage of time. Isabel felt the tide pulling at her, a metaphor for the changes swirling within her. "What if I don't know how?" she whispered, vulnerability cracking her tough exterior. "Then you take it one step at a time," Elijah said, his voice imbued with warmth. "You don't have to have all the answers today. It's okay to be lost for a while." Isabel looked at him, searching his expression for any signs of deceit, but all she found was sincerity. "You really believe that?" "I do," he said firmly. "I've spent years searching for you, hoping that one day we could have this conversation. I want to help you if you'll let me." Isabel turned back to the ocean, the waves crashing like a heartbeat, relentless and powerful. There was something comforting in their rhythm, a reminder that life continued even in the face of turmoil. "What if I don't want your help, Elijah?" she asked, testing the boundaries of her newfound reality. "Then I'll respect your decision," he replied, taking a small step back. "But I hope you'll at least consider it. You deserve to know your story, Isabel. You deserve to know who you truly are." She felt the weight of his words settling in her chest, mingling with the confusion and anger that had dominated her thoughts since the wedding. "And what if that story is worse than I imagined?" "Then you face it together," he said gently. "You don't have to do this alone. You have people who care about you." Isabel paused, contemplating his words. The idea of facing the truth with support was foreign, yet oddly comforting. "And Nathan, that's a question only you can answer," Elijah said, his expression guarded. "You need to figure out what you want, not just what everyone else expects of you." Isabel nodded slowly, the enormity of her situation sinking in. "I don't even know what I want anymore." "I can help you find out," Elijah offered, his eyes earnest. "I can share everything I know, but it has to start with you wanting the truth." Isabel felt a flicker of determination igniting within her. "I want to know who I am," she said, her voice stronger now. "But I'm scared." "Good," Elijah replied, a faint smile breaking through the tension. "Being scared means you're human. It means you care. And that's the first step toward reclaiming your life." With a deep breath, Isabel turned to face him fully. "Okay," Then, let's start with the truth. I want to know everything. Elijah's expression shifted from cautious hope to relief, as if a weight had been lifted. Thank you, Isabel. I promise I'll do my best to help you understand. As they stood on the edge of the cliff, the ocean roaring below, Isabel felt a sense of purpose beginning to form amid the chaos. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but she was ready to face them. She was ready to uncover the truth, no matter how painful it might be. Together, they turned away from the cliff, ready to embark on a new path, one that promised uncertainty, but also the possibility of healing and self-discovery. For the first time in a long time, Isabel felt a glimmer of hope. The past may have shaped her, but it would not define her. She was determined to reclaim her story, and in doing so perhaps even find a new version of herself waiting at the end. Isabel stood in the dimly lit room, the air thick with the scent of musty paper and faded ink. She had found the old box, tucked away in the back of her mother's closet, a relic from a time that felt both foreign and achingly familiar. The box was filled with yellowed letters, photographs, and documents that whispered secrets of a past she had barely begun to understand. She felt a mix of anticipation and dread as she sifted through the contents, each item more revealing than the last. As she pulled out a delicate letter, the handwriting elegant yet frantic, her heart raced. It was addressed to her mother, Vivian, and the ink had smudged in places as if the writer had been crying. She unfolded it carefully, scanning the words that seemed to pulse with urgency. The letter spoke of fear of a woman who had been trying to escape the shadows of her life. "If you're reading this, it means I've failed," it began. "I couldn't protect you or your daughter from the truth. You must keep her safe." Isabel's breath hitched. The mention of her mother and daughter sent shockwaves through her. Who had written this? What truth was her mother trying to shield her from? Her thoughts spiraled, each question more unsettling than the last. She placed the letter aside and picked up a photograph. It depicted a group of young women laughing, their faces radiant with joy. And there in the center was a woman who looked strikingly familiar. It was her mother, younger and carefree, surrounded by friends. But one face stood out among the others, a dark-haired woman with piercing blue eyes that seemed to hold a lifetime of stories. "Who are you?" Isabel whispered to the photograph, her finger brushing over the woman's face, as if hoping to conjure answers from the ether. She felt a chill, a sense of recognition that gnawed at her insides. Could this woman be her biological mother? The thought sent a tremor through her, and she hurriedly returned the photo to the box, her mind racing. Just then the door creaked open, and Clara peeked her head in. "Isabel, are you okay?" Her voice was laced with concern, and Isabel could see the worry etched on her friend's face. "Clara, Isabel started, but the words caught in her throat. She didn't even know where to begin. Instead, she gestured toward the box, her heart pounding. "I found some letters and photos. I think they might be important." Clara stepped into the room, her eyes widening as she approached the box. "What do you mean important? What did you find?" Isabel picked up the letter again, her hands trembling as she handed it to Clara. "This was written to my mum. It talks about protecting me from the truth." Clara read silently, her brow furrowing deeper with each line. When she finished, she looked up, her expression a mixture of empathy and urgency. "Isabel, this is huge. You need to talk to your mom. She must know something." "I know," Isabel replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "But what if she doesn't want to tell me? What if this whole time she's been lying?" "Or protecting you," Clara countered gently. "There's a difference. You need to hear her side of the story to understand what she was facing. You can't jump to conclusions." The weight of Clara's words hung in the air, and Isabel felt a flicker of hope mixed with dread. What if I'm not ready to hear it? What if it changes everything? "Things are already changing, Isabel," Clara said softly. "You can't run from this. You deserve to know who you are, where you come from." Isabel let out a shaky breath, the turmoil of emotions swirling within her. She thought of Elijah's earnest gaze, the way he had reached out to her, the truth he had tried to share. And then there was Nathan, who had been caught in the middle of this storm, his own secrets weighing heavily on his shoulders. "I just want To find my place in all this, she admitted, her voice breaking. I don't want to lose what little I have left. You won't lose anything by seeking the truth, Clara reassured her. You might gain more than you ever expected. As Isabel contemplated Clara's words, she found herself reaching for the photograph once more. This woman, I think she might be my real mother. But why would my mum keep that from me? What was so terrible that it had to be hidden? There's only one way to find out, Clara said, her tone firm yet encouraging. You have to talk to your mom, Isabel. It's the only way to piece this puzzle together. With a deep breath, Isabel nodded. You're right. I can't keep running from this. She felt a surge of determination wash over her, and although the thought of confronting her mother filled her with anxiety, she knew it was a necessary step. I'll do it. I'll ask her everything. Clara smiled, a warm, supportive expression that reminded Isabel of their long-standing friendship. I'll be right here with you every step of the way. Thank you, Clara, Isabel said, grateful for her friend's steadfast presence. I don't think I could do this alone. Together, they began to pack away the letters and photographs, the remnants of a past that felt both fragile and significant. Isabel's mind raced with questions, each piece of the puzzle urging her to dig deeper to uncover the truth behind the veil of secrecy that had cloaked her life for so long. As they finished, Clara squeezed Isabel's hand reassuringly. You're stronger than you think. Whatever happens, you'll get through this. Isabel smiled faintly, though her heart was heavy with uncertainty. I hope so. She glanced at the box one last time, a mix of fear and resolve swelling within her. She knew the journey ahead would be challenging, but she was ready to confront her mother, ready to unravel the tangled threads of her past. With newfound determination, Isabel and Clara left the room, stepping into the unknown. The path ahead was fraught with potential revelations, but Isabel felt a flicker of hope igniting within her. It was time to face the truth, no matter how painful it might be. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Isabel stood at the edge of the cliff that overlooked the tumultuous sea. The wind whipped through her hair, and she closed her eyes, allowing the salty breeze to wash over her. It was a place she had come to many times in her life, a refuge where she could think, reflect, and escape the chaos that often surrounded her. But today was different today. She felt as though the very ground beneath her was shifting, and she was uncertain of what direction to take. Isabel took a deep breath, her heart pounding with the weight of recent revelations. Just hours earlier, she had confronted Nathan about Elijah's shocking claim. The truth had shattered her world, leaving her feeling unmoored and vulnerable. She had always believed in the certainty of her family, the love of her mother, and the protective nature of the man she was about to marry. Yet now everything was in question. "Why did you lie to me?" she had demanded, her voice trembling as she faced Nathan in their apartment, the remnants of wedding preparations scattered around them like forgotten dreams. "How could you keep something like this from me? He's my father." Nathan had shifted uneasily, running a hand through his hair. "Isabel, I thought I was protecting you. Your mother." She was terrified of him. "I believed that telling you the truth would only hurt you more." "Protecting me?" Isabel had scoffed. "You've done nothing but destroy my life with your lies. How can I trust anything you say now?" She remembered the hurt in Nathan's eyes, the way he had reached out as if to comfort her, but she had recoiled. Trust was a fragile thing, and it felt as if theirs had been shattered beyond repair. Now standing at the edge of the cliff, Isabel felt the weight of her emotions pressing down on her. She thought of her mother, Vivian, and the many instances where she had felt a veil of secrecy between them. "Why didn't you tell me?" she whispered to the wind, hoping for an answer that would never come. A sudden noise broke her reverie, a rustling sound nearby. Isabel turned to see Elijah walking toward her, his figure silhouetted against the vibrant sunset. He looked older than she remembered, his face lined with the weight of years spent searching for her. There was a softness in his eyes, a longing, that sparked a flicker of recognition within her that she couldn't ignore. "Isabel," he said gently, his voice carrying over the sound of the crashing waves. I didn't mean to intrude, I just wanted to check on you. Isabel crossed her arms defensively, her heart racing. Why are you here, Elijah? You have no right to be in my life after all this time. I know it's overwhelming, he replied, taking a cautious step closer. But I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help you understand. I want you to know the truth, not just the pieces you've been given. The truth, Isabel scoffed. What does that even mean anymore? You've both been lying to me my entire life. Elijah's gaze softened, and he nodded. I understand. Your anger. I can't change the past, but I can help you navigate through it. You deserve to know who you are and why things happened the way they did. Isabel felt a mixture of anger and curiosity surging within her. Could she trust him? He was a stranger, yet he claimed to be her father. She had spent a lifetime believing that her mother had protected her from a dangerous man. But what if everything she knew was wrong? What do you know about my mother? Isabel asked, her voice low but urgent. What really happened? Elijah hesitated, his expression shifting, as if he were weighing how much to reveal. Your mother was brave. She made choices to protect you, choices that were not easy for her. She loved you deeply, and she sacrificed everything to keep you safe. Isabel's heart ached at the mention of her mother's love. But she lied to me. All these years she told me my father was dead. She did what she thought was best. Elijah said, his voice thick with emotion. Vivian was terrified. When I found out she was pregnant, I was determined to protect both of you, but things spiraled out of control. She felt she had no choice but to run. Run from what? Isabel pressed, desperate for answers. What was so terrible that she had to leave everything behind? Elijah looked out over the sea, his expression distant. There were people involved, dangerous people who wanted to use you for their own purposes. Your mother thought she could shield you from that world by disappearing. Disappearing, Isabel echoed, feeling a swell of emotions. And what about you? Why didn't you come for me? Didn't you care? I cared more than you know, Elijah said, his voice cracking. Every day I searched for you. I never stopped looking. I wanted to come for you, but Vivian was adamant about keeping you away from me. She believed it was for your own good. Isabel felt a flicker of understanding, but the anger still lingered. So, it was all just a lie to keep me safe. What if I don't want to be safe anymore? What if I want the truth no matter how painful it is? Elijah turned to her, his gaze piercing. Then you have to be ready to face it all. It won't be easy, Isabel, but I promise you I will help you every step of the way. Isabel felt the weight of his words settle in her chest. She had always craved the truth, but now that it was within reach, she was terrified of what it might uncover. What if I find out that my entire life has been a lie? Then you will have the power to rewrite it, Elijah replied, his tone steady. You will decide who you want to be, and you will no longer be defined by the choices of others. As the last rays of sunlight disappeared behind the horizon, Isabel felt a shift within her. The darkness was closing in, but it was also a blank canvas. She could feel the pulse of something new, something that stirred with the promise of discovery. It was terrifying, yet exhilarating. I don't know if I'm ready, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. You don't have to be ready right now, Elijah said, stepping closer. Just take it one step at a time. You're not alone anymore. Isabel looked into her father's eyes, searching for a glimmer of the man she had never known, the man who had been lost to her for so long. The pain of the past was still there, but a flicker of hope began to emerge. Okay, she said finally, her voice steadying. Let's start with the truth. And as they stood together at the edge of the world, the waves crashing below them, Isabel felt the first stirrings of a new beginning, a journey that would take her through the shadows of her past and into the light of her own truth. Isabel sat on the edge of her bed, the morning light streaming through the curtains, casting a warm glow on the delicate lace of her wedding dress, which hung just a few feet away. The fabric shimmered as if echoing the dreams she had woven into, the very fibers. Today was supposed to be the culmination of a perfect love story, yet beneath the surface of her excitement, a storm brewed. Memories of the revelation about her father, Elijah Hart, and the web of lies that surrounded her life swirled in her mind like a tempest. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. "It's just nerves," she whispered to herself, but the words felt hollow. A soft knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. It was Clara, her best friend and maid of honor. Clara's bright smile was infectious, but today even her warmth felt dimmed by the weight of uncertainty that clung to Isabel. "Hey, beautiful R. You ready? The guests are starting to arrive?" Clara's voice bubbled with enthusiasm, but her eyes searched Isabel's face for a glimpse of the joy she had expected to see. Isabel forced a smile, trying to mask her turmoil. "I'll be out in a minute," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. Clara nodded and left her footsteps echoing down the hall. Alone again, Isabel stood up and approached the dress. She reached out, brushing her fingers against the fabric, remembering how she had envisioned this day for years. But now the fantasy felt tainted. The image of Elijah's face, the man she had thought was a ghost, hovered over her thoughts, an unwelcome spectre that clouded her mind. She glanced at her reflection in the mirror, searching for the woman who had been so sure of her path. The woman who was about to marry Nathan Cole, the love of her life. But the reflection staring back at her was one of confusion and heartbreak. "Who am I?" she whispered, her voice cracking. The question echoed in her mind, a painful reminder of the identity she had been stripped of. With a sudden burst of decision, she turned away from the mirror and walked to the door. She had to confront Nathan. She needed to understand why he had kept the truth about her father from her. The man she had trusted completely had withheld the very essence of her identity. Did he love her at all? Or was their relationship built on a foundation of lies? Isabel made her way down the corridor to the reception area, where the sound of laughter and clinking glasses filled the air. She could see the guests mingling, their faces bright with joy, oblivious to the storm raging within her. Nathan stood near the bar, laughing with some friends, his charm radiating and drawing people in like a moth to a flame. He looked so perfect, so at ease, and for a fleeting moment she felt a pang of longing for the life she had imagined. But that life felt like a mirage now, and she couldn't allow herself to get lost in the illusion any longer. Taking a deep breath, she approached him, her heart pounding in her chest. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice firm yet laced with vulnerability. Nathan turned, his expression shifting from joviality to concern. "Isabel, what's wrong? You look pale." He reached out to touch her arm, but she stepped back, the warmth of his touch no longer comforting. "I need to know why you didn't tell me about Elijah," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You knew he was alive all this time, and you let me believe my father was dead." His face fell, and for a moment the laughter around them faded into the background. "Isabella," he started, but she cut him off. "No, you don't get to explain this away. I deserve to know why you chose to keep something so crucial from me." Anger bubbled beneath her surface, and she fought to keep it in check. "How could you do that?" He glanced around as if gauging whether anyone was listening. "Let's go somewhere private, please." Isabel nodded curtly, leading him to a small garden area outside the reception hall. The sun was bright, but it did little to warm the chill that had settled in her heart. She crossed her arms, trying to shield herself from the emotional coldness that had seeped into her bones. Nathan ran a hand through his hair, visibly struggling to find the right words. "I thought it was for the best. I didn't want to ruin your wedding day with all of this." "Ruin my wedding day? This isn't just about today, Nathan. This is my entire life. You kept a secret about my father, about my past. How can I trust you now?" Her voice trembled, the weight of her emotions threatening to spill over. "I thought I was protecting you," he said, desperation creeping into his tone. "Elijah was involved in some dangerous things. Your mother, she was scared. I just wanted to keep you safe." "Safe?" Isabel laughed bitterly. "You think keeping me in the dark is keeping me safe? You've taken away my chance to confront my past, my chance to understand who I really am." Nathan stepped closer, his eyes pleading. "Isabel, I love you. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought if I helped Elijah find you, it would be easier for you." "Easier?" she interrupted, her voice rising. "Do you have any idea how hard this is for me? Everything I believed to be true is shattered. I don't even know who I am anymore." Silence hung between them, heavy and suffocating. Nathan opened his mouth as if to say something, but no words came. Isabel felt a swell of sadness as she looked into his eyes, searching for the comfort she once found there. But all she saw now was a reflection of betrayal. "I need time, Nathan," she said finally, her voice softening. "I can't marry you today. I can't pretend everything is okay when my world feels like it's falling apart." His expression shifted to one of realization, and she could see the hurt behind his eyes. "Isabel, I'm sorry, but I have to figure this out on my own. I need to understand who I am before I can enter into a lifelong commitment. I can't marry you when I don't even know myself." Nathan took a step back, the hurt etched deeply on his face. "I never meant for it to come to this." "I know," she said, tears welling in her eyes, "but I can't live a lie anymore." As she turned to walk away, the weight of her decision pressed on her chest, but she felt a flicker of resolve ignite within her. This was her journey, her truth to uncover, and she would no longer let anyone dictate her path. She stepped away from Nathan, moving toward the unknown, ready to confront the shadows of her past and embrace the fragments of her true self.